Hey there, my name's McKenna. Here are some things that help me find motivation and help me become more productive in my art career. A lot of these ideas are not my original ideas, but instead this information was gathered from many years of self-reflection, research like you're probably doing right now, and experiencing what works and doesn't work. I'll try to credit what I can. Number 1, morning pages. So, if you haven't heard of The Artist's Way, it's an incredible book that I've had most of my life and I've always come back to. And I found one of the most useful things are doing morning pages. There's no wrong way to do pages. Simply do them longhand and keep your hand moving across the page. Write down anything that comes to mind. Continue for 3 pages and then stop. Morning pages are about anything and everything that comes into your mind as you write. In this way, they are very different from standard journaling, in which you set a topic and try to say something meaningful or write in response to a specific agenda. In the morning pages, anything goes. This means they will be scattered, often trivial, frequently negative, petty, self-doubting, angry, and seemingly pointless. They are not. All that mental debris is the clutter that comes between us and our creative potential. We often call the pages brain drain because they are designed to siphon off poisonous attitudes, the pond scum of the mind. In the morning pages, sometimes the morning pages, you are free to feel and be exactly as you are in that moment. The pages are completely accepting. To put it in a psychological jargon, they are meant to be a safe space. I found that morning pages are really useful because they tend to write out your artist block. And you figure a lot about yourself when you write every day, just freehand, and you tend to analyze subjects that you wouldn't have normally analyzed before. I definitely don't do them all the time, and every once in a while I'll go back and do them. I decided to make a goal to do 1 large piece a month, and sometimes I produced more, and some months were more productive. Sometimes the pieces were bigger and more elaborate, and sometimes they were smaller and not as productive, but that is normal and okay. I feel like setting that goal for myself was enough motivation to at least work on something. And usually what would end up happening is that I would work on a piece and not finish it by the end of the month. And so I'd spend the next week of the first of the month trying to finish it. But it made me more productive because it gave me a mental deadline. And it wasn't a daunting task to do 1 large piece a month because it was only 1. It definitely was a goal that was reasonable for me. The next goal that I had for myself was to draw every day, and I would go through phases, but I wouldn't put a super heavy restriction on myself. I would just try to doodle at least once a day or work on bigger projects, just something that was repetitive and keep my skills sharp. It definitely didn't have to be daunting. My next tip is to use a wall calendar to track progress, and it's so satisfying to check something off. I try to find the bare minimum of what I'd like to accomplish that month, and then I add extra things that if I have time that I can accomplish. But I don't stress myself too much about it. I eventually fell out of the habit of keeping a wall calendar, but I was still being productive without it and occasionally just needed to reassess. When I'm writing things down and tracking, I have the most clear vision, but things always happen in the ebb and flow kind of way. I think it's important not to beat yourself up for not always keeping up, and instead celebrate the small successes that build up over time. It's almost tricking your brain to not dwell on what feels lacking, but instead on the accomplishments of any size. Next is I also keep a vision board so I can make goals on what I want to see in the future. I feel like morning pages helps weed out what you want in life too, and the vision board gives you a clear direction of what you're actually working for. Though you don't have to have everything figured out, it's a work in progress, and your dreams can shift and evolve. Another tip is having projects. For me, I have gone through different art phases, and there's purpose of exploring myself or a concept better through each piece. And right now I'm super inspired to write stories and characters that I hope will turn into something more tangible in the future. I may not know exactly what that looks like yet, but as I continue to pursue it, things gradually get more clear. What if I made a graphic novel or wrote a story with illustrations or make an art book with an overarching theme? Sometimes it will feel clear or sometimes vague. What's important is I want to work toward an amazing outcome, and that is very motivating to me. The seventh tip is more vague, but other life things may affect your level of creativity. For example, when I'm in a place of financial instability, I'm not very creative. I'm worried about other things and I don't want to be in that creative headspace. When your body gets into fight or flight mode, it is hard to move past that state of being. Everyone is different and can have different forms of an art block like that. I think it would be really helpful to take a good look at your life and identify anything going on. Rather than just feeling guilty, you aren't being more productive. A cycle of beating yourself up over and over will not solve the problem and most likely exacerbate it. When you identify something that's partly in your control and partly not, you can make logical steps to become more proactive about it. I have other obligations right now, like other jobs not having to do with my art. The downside is that my time and energy get depleted away from creativity sometimes. So I've learned how to do a balancing act. I think that comes from experience. It is totally okay to balance your life with multiple things. Not everyone can make a living off of just doing art, and usually artists will end up having multiple avenues of revenue and passion to balance. Have reasonable expectations on yourself. I feel like my eyes really opened about my creativity when I read The Artist's Way. It helped dig a little deeper into my creative life. When I went to school for art, I struggled through it because I was trying to find myself and I didn't have a lot of meaning while I was in school. When I was younger and in junior high and high school, I had so much passion and drive to do art because there was so much meaning behind it. And I had a huge community of friends that were both into the same things. So it was a nice social support. But when I graduated college, since I didn't have any meaning to do art anymore, it just kind of fizzled out. Then, a few years later, I started to pick up art again and very, very slowly progressed into finding more and more reasons why I did art. And it just kept growing. Number 8, find connections in the community. Go to art shows, meet artists similar to you, sell art at art markets, join clubs, interact with artists you meet online. Believe me, even leaving a comment on a small artist's Instagram post will surely make their day, and people also want to feel connected. Having some form of belonging in a community is so important. Also, remember that it doesn't happen overnight. I'm so lucky that I live in a town that has an artistic culture I feel like I contribute to, and online as well. If you know me, I'm all about Castlevania, and it's so awesome to connect with people that share similar interests. And the last tip I have is be kind. Just be kind. Even if you don't check off all the boxes, believe me, you are doing just fine. You've got to be kind on yourself. When you find self-love, it gets reflected back out into the world, and we need way more of that right now. I know I'm not perfect, and every day is a little different. Be patient and give things time to click. Hopefully, any insight here will be useful to someone. Have fun exploring your inner worlds, and have a blast! I've been working on my castles of forest, which is my metaphor for my creative world. And it's a beautiful place to be. It's always in a state of growth, and it will continue to be a stepping stone to something greater and grander. Remember, it's a long game. Well, have fun, and thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.